All right. So anyway, I was explaining to you guys how my mom spoke to the doctor, and the doctor, she hadn't slept. So the doctor tells her, if you haven't slept, if the pain is that bad that you haven't slept in days, you need to go to the emergency room. So finally, this is like the second time this happened. She would not go to the emergency room unless the doctor told her to. It was frustrating. So we're on the way home now. We had just found out that she possibly has cancer in her spine. And now, we're driving home. The mood in the car was so sad. You could just feel the fucking sadness in the air. My son, of course, he's 3 years old. He doesn't understand what's going on. So he's like, nah, and he's trying to talk to her. And, my mom always paid attention to my son. Like, always. Like, she never would be like, oh, Jesse, stop talking. Or, I remember she yelled at him that day. And I was shocked because, he was screaming or something. And she was like, shut up. He was trying to talk to her. And she was just, ignoring him. And I'm like, dude, she's, in a bad place right now. This isn't normal for her to be like this, It was sad. It was really sad. This is Carol. This is so Carol. She goes, I'm going to go home and put a couple of hours of work in. I'm like, Mom. I'm thinking in my head, the doctor just told you to go in the emergency room because you haven't slept in 3 days. And now you want to go home and put a couple of hours in at work? I don't know why my mom worried about money so much, and she really didn't need to. I don't know what was going through her head at this point. If that's what she wants to do right now, because that's my mom's escape. That was how my mom escaped from reality. She put her mind, her energy, everything into work. Work was her escape. Some people use drugs and other things. My mom used work. So right then and there, okay, we get out of the doctor's office. It's about 1 o'clock, right? 1:30. So I know we're going to the emergency room. I'm going to call my brother. Maybe he'll come down to the emergency room this time, and I won't be stuck there until 3 o'clock in the morning by myself. That was my thought. I call him up. I told him how serious it was, okay? He knew. He knew how serious the pain was and how bad everything was at this point, So I call him up, and I'm like, I just want to let you know, I'm taking Mommy to the hospital. Has to go to the emergency room. She's in really, really bad pain. Told him what the doctor said. Cancer might have spread to the spine. And you know what this motherfucker tells me? I'm in the city right now. I'm going to a show later, so let me know what happens. Click. I was like, really? You're in the city right now? Okay. It was just another disappointment because I'm like, the old Steven would have been there. Anytime when my dad was sick or anything through the years, my mom had to go to the emergency room, we were all there. That's how we roll. You drop what the fuck you're doing and you be there for your family. You're gonna sit in the city and hang out in the city tonight and have fun knowing what's going on. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I was just amazed. I was like, I can't, he was just all right, let me know what happens, click. And just that was it. No concern, no, oh my God, I can't believe it. Just let me know what happens. I get home, my mom goes and sits in her work chair in her office and she goes back to work. And I'm just I don't know how this woman's doing this. I really don't. But I didn't want to argue with her because I was like, you know what, dude? Look what she just found out. If this is what she needs to do to cope with what she just found out, let it be. Sitting in that chair for some reason, she wasn't in pain as bad. So let her sit, let her relax, group herself. Whoops. What am I going to do? So my husband comes and picks my son up because I told my husband that, I'm going to go to the emergency room. My husband had not seen my mom in probably a couple weeks, at this point in time. And he was like, dude, your mom does not look good at all. She looks horrible. And I'm like, I know, Chris, I know. It's not good. She's still working. She didn't want to stop working that day. And finally I was like, Mom, come on, we have to go. My husband stayed at the house with me. I packed our hospital bag. I put some pajamas in it. I put a couple things because at this point in time now, I'm like, dude, every time we've gone to the hospital, I don't do this. And then you end up having to stay. And then I have to go all the way back to your house, get shit for you. Let's just take an encased bag. I put a couple of things in there. And she was in fucking horrible pain at this point in time. Like, she couldn't even tell me what to get for her. She's like kind of dozing in and out of consciousness. I get her packed up, and I remember I told her, you guys are probably like, why are you telling us this? Because it's gonna make sense later in the story. I'll reference back to this. I had just gotten her painkillers filled that week. I went to the pharmacy, and they didn't have enough when I went. So the pharmacist, my mom was like friends with the pharmacist because she worked at Kmart, and that's where she got her stuff from. So he knew her for fucking like years. He filled half her prescription and then told me to come back whenever she needed the other half. So she didn't need it right away. So I waited a couple, whatever. I waited until she had more prescriptions to pick up. So I had just gone back that week, like maybe like a week or like a couple of days before this all happened, maybe at the beginning of the week or the end of the previous week. So she hadn't taken, all of them. So I told her, take one now and then take 2 with you or something. I don't remember exact amounts that I said, but I was like, take, at least 1 or 2 and then take them with you when we get down to the hospital. This way, if we're waiting, and you start feeling the pain worsening, at least you have something to take, You're not just like sitting there in pain. She had them in this like Tupperware thing on her table, and she tells me to go grab them. So I go grab 2 of them, right? Put them in a pill container. I packed them in her bag. So finally we're ready to leave. Get in my car. My husband gets in his car. We started driving to the hospital, and now my husband's riding alongside me like the whole way there. I don't know what happened. Like, I really don't. I don't know if my mom just finally like just everything caught up with her, or the pain. I don't know. Maybe it was a combination of everything. My mom used to hold on to the what I call an oh shit handle in the car. And she's like holding on to it, and she looks like a heroin addict. I swear to God. She was like, something about Trump. I remember her saying, Donald Trump. I'm riding alongside my husband, and he's looking at me like this, and I'm just like, I'm like, so she's like half asleep, and she's like half awake, right? And she's moaning and groaning and mumbling things and not making any sense. Now I'm getting really scared. We get to the emergency room. I pull up. I go get a wheelchair. I wheel her into the emergency room, and she's now a little bit more alert and awake and everything like that. It's like the first time ever. I don't know what was going on like at this time, but the emergency room at this hospital was fucking like ridiculously packed, like more than it normally is, because it always, emergency rooms are always busy, but this was like on a different level of busy. I mean, you couldn't even find a seat in the waiting room, which was not normal because it's a pretty big hospital. Sitting there, and she's in this wheelchair, and she's all uncomfortable, and she's moaning and groaning in pain. And like, for my mom to do that in front of people, like, because my mom's like one of those people where like she doesn't want to make people worry about her or look at her or draw attention to herself. So like, she'll be in pain, but she won't say anything. She'll just sit there and suck it up, like, for her to be actually like letting loose and moaning and groaning because she's in so much pain, I knew the pain was really fucking bad. My brother calls at 6:30. He didn't even call me. He calls her. She answers the phone, and she has like a little conversation with him. We didn't even get into like triage yet. Like, we were still in the fucking waiting room. And she's like, oh, we're just waiting. And yeah, I'm in really bad pain and whatever. I'm like, where is he? Like, what is he doing? She's like, oh, he's in the city. He got free tickets to go see this comedy show. Some female comedian. I don't remember who it was. Amy something. Amy Schumer? Is that her name? I don't know. I don't fucking follow that kind of shit. So I'm like, so you're telling me that he's not here because he's at a comedy show in the city? Wow. That he got free tickets to? Okay. Cool. Tell me if I'm wrong. If that was me, I would have been like, fuck the comedy show. My mom's in the hospital. I'm going. Bye. Or at the very, very least, I would have called, like, and been checking in on her every, like, fucking hour. But he didn't even do that. That was the last time we heard from him for the rest of the night. I mean, he knew what was going on. He was very aware of what was going on. There was no concern. None. Zero. And that night, I gotta tell you guys this, like, that was probably the worst night of my life. Hands down, like the worst night. She was in so much fucking pain. I mean, oh my God. I never saw somebody in pain like this. And it's my mother. And we get into the emergency room. She couldn't lay down in the bed. So the whole time she's like moving all over, putting her feet up. Leanna, put that there, put this here, put this there, move this, move my leg, move this. Like she couldn't even move her body. Remember at one point they had to do an EKG on her. And, you know, they stick all the things and they needed her to lay back. And she was like fighting the nurses, screaming in pain. For her to do this, I cannot even explain to you guys. Like, she had to be in fucking serious pain for my mom to be like the way she was. Like, she was nasty to the nurses. You know, normally she's like the best patient. She's like a model patient, like, oh, go ahead, you know. No, she was freaking out. I remember there was also one of the nurses was having trouble finding a vein because, like, I don't know, she must have had so many blood tests in the last couple of months and shit. I don't know. They couldn't find a vein, and like she kept poking her, and my mom was like freaking out, yelling at the lady. Like, I was like embarrassed, but at the same time I was like, you know, she's in pain. Like, I don't know what to do. I've never seen my mom like this before, ever, or anything even close to it, the way she was acting that night. I mean, she was fucking screaming at people. She was that person that when you go to the emergency room, you hear them screaming and you just look and like, what the fuck is going on in that room? Like, what happened? It was bad. Like, people were like staring at us. We're in like a little room and people could hear her outside of this room, like across the hallway and across the emergency room. It was crazy. And I'm sitting there and I'm just watching her in this pain. So finally the doctor comes in and he gives her a dose of Dilaudid. Dilaudid is like, it's a very powerful painkiller. I think it's a synthetic opiate painkiller, but it is one of the most powerful ones they could give you. If you get a pain pump, that's what they put in it. Serious shit. That's like, it's strong, serious fucking shit. They give it to her and wait couple minutes and she's still screaming in pain. Doctors start looking at me and they're like, you know, and I even started saying, is this actual pain? Is she really in this much pain? Or is this like a perceived, you know, thing in her head? Because the doctor said to me, like, listen, she shouldn't be feeling anything right now. She should be fucking floating in la la land. She's on fentanyl, painkillers, and then now Dilaudid. She shouldn't be in this much pain, like, anymore. Like, it should have at least taken the edge off and made it tolerable. And she's screaming. I mean, I can't explain it to you guys enough how bad this woman was in pain. In fact, and this might be horrible to you guys, hear me out. I took a video of her at one point in time. And the only reason is because it's now, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning. She's on her second dose of Dilaudid, still screaming in pain. And I'm sitting in the room, in the corner of this room. I'm sitting on the floor like this. And I'm like, just staring at her, watching her scream, watching her moan and groan. And I'm just sitting there in my head going, my brother's sitting at a fucking comedy show right now. He's sitting at a comedy show. And I'm watching a fucking horror movie right now. Freddy Krueger doesn't have shit on what I'm fucking watching right now. This is the only way I can explain it. You know, as the nurses and everybody's coming in and she has to be moved and she's screaming, she can't even sit up on her own. Oh, Leanna. I still hear the noises. I still hear the screams in my head from that night. The screaming. I'm not exaggerating to you guys. Like, she was fucking screaming. I felt like somebody was fucking holding my hands behind my back while I watched a gang of people beat the shit out of my mom. I can't do anything about it. I'm just sitting there with my hands tied. I can't help you. I can't do anything. I'm trying to make you comfortable. Like, that feeling of helplessness, it's the worst feeling in the world. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get that much sleep the night before either because I was worrying about her for that prior week. I didn't sleep either. I'm tired. I just want to go home, but I can't leave her, you know, because I'm like, they don't even know what the fuck's going on right now. We were kind of just left there in limbo. Like, the doctors weren't really saying much, and I'm not going to leave her screaming in pain. Like, I just wanted to see them, like, relieve some of the pain. Something, please. So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm having this thought about my brother. And I'm just like, how, like, you're at a fucking comedy show right now. And he hasn't even called. I looked at her phone too. Did not even check back in the whole fucking night. This guy has a fucking Apple Watch and an iPhone, right? He's constantly on his phone. Constantly looking at his phone and his Apple Watch and playing with things. Like you couldn't just send a text at this comedy show and be like, how's mom doing? He told my mom too. He's like, oh, maybe I'll come on the way home. He didn't fucking come. He had no intention of coming. You know, I'm figuring this thing probably didn't end till 12:30. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I know he was still up. Like, there's no question. So I send him this video. I take this quick video of my mom. And I'm like, you know, I wanted him to understand, like, what was going on. How horrible it was. And I send it to him. And I get nothing back. Nothing. It's like nearing 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, all right, I gotta go home. My husband had to go to work. My husband had like taken off so many days for this shit. Like I couldn't, you know, he couldn't keep taking off. He's a sole provider. And he had to work. My brother, do you think he took off days from work? No, he didn't fucking take off shit. Maybe 1 or 2 days the whole time. Like he's a fucking piece of shit. I had to get home. My husband was working in Manhattan in the friggin' on the Intrepid. It's a museum now. It's like, it's an old Navy boat. And he has like a 2-hour drive to work. I was out of the house by like 4:30 a.m. every morning at this time. I have to get home. My son's sleeping. Like I can't leave my son home by himself. He didn't sleep that night either because he was worried and he kept calling me and, you know, I kept calling him and it was just... it was a rough night for everybody, but I mean, the worst was for my mom. I mean, what she went through, I can't even compare to what I went through. What she went through that night is horrible. Horrible. I don't even think I could put it into words how bad it was, okay? So I called my husband up that night and I said to him that night, I'm like, Chris, I don't know. Something's different. Like, I don't know if my mom's getting out of the hospital this time. I don't know if she's gonna get out. It's bad. It's really, really fucking bad. I made this clear to my brother too. So I go hang up the phone with him now. I walk back in the room and my mom is like on the edge of the bed and completely out of it. Like completely at this point in time and scary. I'm trying to talk to her. She's not even like acknowledging me. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like falling all over the fucking place. I have to keep picking her up now because she's falling. She's sitting on the edge of the bed. You know, like the hospital beds are high. So she's sitting on the edge of this bed and she keeps almost falling forward. So now I had to spend the whole night wrestling her to make sure she didn't fall off the bed because now she's on all these, you know, painkillers. You know, nobody's coming around. The doctors are like nowhere to be fucking found. And I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I can't leave her. Somebody needs to be in this room with her. She's falling. She's gonna fall and hit her fucking head. She's on blood thinners too at this point. So I'm like, you know, she's gonna fall and like bleed to death. Like, I can't leave her. She wouldn't sit back in the bed because she would be in too much pain. She's screaming in pain. So the only way she was comfortable was sitting up on the edge of the bed. You know, the bed goes this way, long ways. And she's sitting on the edge like this with her feet hanging off. And that was the only way she could sit, that she wasn't in extreme pain. I can't leave her sitting here. So I finally, you know, the doctor comes over. I'm like, what's going on? Why is she so fucking out of it? Like, what happened? Something changed. The doctor's like, oh, we gave her Valium to calm her down. Dude, Valium on top of fentanyl, you know, how many Percocets she took that day. And by that point in time, it was like 2 to 3 doses of Dilaudid. And now you're giving her fucking Valium? No wonder why. She was completely out of it by this point in time, guys. Still screaming in pain, though. Still moaning and groaning with the pain. That's how bad it was. I'm explaining to the doctor. I'm like, listen, like, I don't want to leave, but I have to. My husband has to go to work. My son's going to be by himself. And I felt so guilty leaving that night. Like, I don't think I could explain how hard it was for me to leave her that night. I was like having fucking severe anxiety about leaving her. I can't leave her like the way she is. She's gonna hurt herself, you know? She's falling off the bed. I have to keep wrestling her and picking her back up. This went on the whole night. It was like me wrestling her to keep her from hurting herself. But it got worse after the Valium, like way worse. I mean, like she couldn't even talk to me at that point. It's very scary, dude, to see your mom like that, you know? Distressing, scary shit. Finally, it's like 3:30 now, and the doctor's like, okay, you know, they're going to move her to the critical decision unit, the CDU, critical decision unit. So I was like, oh my God, thank God. They were like, you know, she'll be under supervision in there. She was so out of it. Dude, I cried my fucking eyes out when I left that night. I knew leaving the hospital that night that things were not good. It was all going to start going from here on out. When I tell you guys what happened over this last month of her life while she was in the hospital, like, this month of my life was the worst month of my life in every fucking way possible. Everything came crashing down after this. My relationship with my brother, my relationship with my family. This is when everything came to a head. When you guys hear what went on, your minds are going to be blown. I really think so. I'm going to leave it there. Me leaving the hospital that night. Pure insanity from this point on. Stay tuned.